Alright. Hey everybody.
Howdy.
Jeff Kane.
And the Canadian.
And this is why you prefer us on a podcast.
That is correct.
But what we're going to do today is something a little bit different, something we might be doing a little more often, but we're going to preview a game that's currently on Kickstarter.
Hero Brigade.
Hero Brigade by Zucchini People Games. So we're going to take a look at this. We're going to show you a little bit of how to play it. Quick run through on how to play it, and then at the end we'll give you a brief, our opinion of the game, and maybe on the podcast itself we'll do a full-length review. But let's go ahead and take a look at
Hero Brigade.
Thank you.
Well, let's see who goes first.
All right, so I'm going to roll to determine who goes first. It's going to be Jordan. Now, usually, then Jordan would have his pick of whether to play the heroes or the villains, but he's already got the villains on his side.
Because I'm villainous.
Yes. So, what you get is a 20-card hero deck, a 20-card villain deck, and a 50-card resource deck, which you'll have 4 cards out that we can each purchase from. And then each of us will have 4 cards in our hand to start play. Since Jordan won the roll-off, he will start as first player.
Yeah, baby. All right.
So we'll take you through like 2 rounds of how to play. And
Unlike other kind of deck builders, there's no extra currency here. You're not buying gold. You're not buying recruiting stars. You draw cards from here by having cards in your hand that tell you to draw. If you don't have a card that does that, you actually can't draw from there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start out. I'm going to put... he's got some good names here. I'm going to put the Excrementalist into my first row.
Alright, so...
And he has 7 hit points. This is life tracking. We'll do some close-ups on the cards later. But it tells you how many hit points he has, and then you use your D10 for life tracking. And then if you lose a card, you lose cards from your deck. We'll get to the mechanics later.
So there's a front row, a support row, and then you can. There's another ability to just play the card. I am going to take a couple of my henchmen, or actually my normal heroes, which is police officer in my deck. It's henchman in Jordan's deck. And use their play ability, which is if I discard 2 or more police officers, which I have 2 in my hand, instead of taking one of these that's out and available and putting it in my discard pile, I discard these guys off to the side here, and I get to take one off the top of the deck, but instead of going in my discard pile, it goes in my hand. Now, we are going to play back and forth basically through our 4 cards or however many cards we end up getting until we're both done. And then we go on to a fight phase, except for first round you don't do the fight phase. So, Jordan?
So I'm going to use my Mime, his play ability, deep pockets, draw 2 cards from the villain deck. So I discard him rather than laying him out. That's his play ability. Then I draw 2 cards. So now, unless Jeff has a similar card, I actually have a bit of a card advantage. First round, since there's no fighting, not necessarily as big a deal, but if I had gotten 2 of my henchmen, I'd also be able to draw up a little bit more.
Now I'm going to use the card that I took off of the top of the resource deck. And again, this is a prototype, so some of the art, or most of the art, probably isn't final. In fact, the templates on the cards have changed as well since it's gone on Kickstarter. But the card I have here is called Tactical Maneuvers. It's a special. It's not a hero. It's not a normal. It's not a mercenary. It's just a card that I get to play. Normally, I might use this during later turns to screw with where Jordan's characters are, what position they're in, because depending on what position they're in is what abilities they have. But since his first round, he's only got one card in that row. I'm going to use it for its other ability, which is that I get to draw one card from my hero deck, which may or may not be a good thing as we go on, and you'll find out as we talk more about the mechanics later. So I draw one card out of my deck and put that in my hand, and then it goes back to Jordan.
Alrighty, I'm going to put out Professor Dog. We know how the designer feels about dogs and cats. Apparently, dogs are in the villains pile and cats are in the hero pile. I agree with that. Professor Dog has 2 hit points.
And now he's putting Professor Dog in his support row, so it's in his back row. Your front row can have 3 cards. Your support row can have 2 cards. And that's the max number of cards you can have basically in play hero-wise for the game. Let's see. I think I am going to go with... I'm going to take Chill Factor here and use her play ability instead of putting her out, which allows me to take one of the cards that is out here. I could either do 1 point of damage to one row, which I could try to damage him now, but I'm going to use it to grab a card. So that'll go in my discard, and I think we're going to take this Clone Spy Twin, which can mess with your opponent because it basically takes up a spot in their heroes or villains that can be out in play. But that'll go to my discard for now.
I'm going to drop some Chinese calculus. That's the character. I'm going to use his play ability for the draw 1 card from the villain deck.
I'm going to use Vasilisa? Vasilisa.
Veliza. Yeah, Vasilisa.
Something like that.
Vasilisa.
A magic hero. Yeah, Vasilina. I'm going to use her play ability as well, which is basically the same ability that he just used, but on the hero side. So I will discard that to take 1 card from my deck and put it in my hand.
In a case of utterly pointless cycling, I dropped Chinese calculus and drew Chinese calculus. I'm going to put him in my front row.
Alright, you're stacking up your front row pretty good there. This time, I think I'm going to take Johnny Pyro, and I will play him. I'm going to play him to my front row, so I can use his front row abilities. Now, he has 6 hit points and a value of 2. The value is very important. We'll get to that here shortly as well.
Alrighty. Not keen on the mimes this round, apparently. With my first mime, I drew a mime, so I'm going to deep pockets with my second mime to get 2 more cards. Alrighty then.
Alright, so at this point, I'm going to pass, which basically means I can't play any more cards. I have a card left in my hand. I'm not going to play it. If it's a interrupt or a reaction, I can play it later. But basically, I'm done playing cards, and now Jordan gets to play as many cards as he wants to that he has left.
So I've got 3 cards. Unless he has an interrupt, I essentially get 3 unmolested turns. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play my henchman, which is the villainous equivalent of Jeff's policeman. So I'm discarding at least 2, so I will get to draw a card from the resource pile. Alrighty then. Yeah. Well, that was a bit of a waste at this point. Okay, so then I will throw down natural disaster to my
So, you know,
It's the same thing, so I'll throw her in my support row.
so basically that's kind of what Jordan is reading is depending on which row you have these cards in, they have different abilities. So you have to stack that up too is when you're playing them. All right, so you're completely done? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to
All right.
pass.
All right, so since this is first turn, we're not going to have the fight phase. That's
How do enhancements work?
you attach them to, but it has to be the type of
Okay.
villain in your case. So
Okay, then I
science,
am going to throw it a science then.
So you have a science enhancement.
Yeah, I have a
All
science enhancement. I've got a science gizmo. So I'm going to throw that on Prof Dog. One science target in party deals +1 damage with all attacks.
All right. All right. So again, since this is first turn, that's why we're going to go through a couple turns because this first turn we don't do the fight stuff. Basically, we move on to cleanup, which is where we're going to discard any cards that we have left. I had one police officer. I didn't want to put it out, so I'm just going to discard it. Any cards not bought during the play basically go in its own discard pile. You won't see these again. So that's basically, and if we had fought and things were disabled, we would enable them again. And that would basically be cleanup. So now we go to where I'll be first player this turn. 4 more cards will come out that we could potentially purchase. All the secret weaknesses are all over the place. And then we each get 4 cards. And this time starting with myself, I'm going to go with... I'm going to acquire 1 card from the pool.
Secret Weakness is a good card. It's a moment of vulnerability. When drawn from the resource deck or acquired, place in the opposing player's discard. It has no abilities, but it's part of my deck. So, it's copper. You know, it's just a dead card now. So, actually, it's even more insidious than copper, because it does nothing, but it takes up a spot.
It takes up a spot, but it gives you 1 more card for when you're getting rid of
fattens
cards
it up a
later.
little bit. But all right. Well, in response to that, sir, I'll throw out a henchman in the front row.
All right. Well, in response to that, I have another reinforcement. So why don't you take that second secret weakness, sir?
What a surprise!
Fatten up that deck.
I have some more henchmen, so I'm going to dump all of them in my hand to draw a card.
All right. Well, I've got a couple police officers, so I will do the same. That wasn't good.
There's some... Well, I have a twisted mind, so... There are things here that lead me to believe possibly Mr. Well, I won't go there. Alright. I'm going to bust out Bunny Dangerous. I'm going to play her card. Femme Fatale. Deal 1 animal or vegetable. Defeat 1 animal or vegetable card. And this is a Femme Fatale. Or... Since you don't have one, opposing character discards 1 card. So that's what I'm going to do. You're going to discard. Yay! You couldn't get it anyway.
Yeah, couldn't do anything with it.
And then for my last action, I'm going to... you can't have more than 1 copy of a non-normal card out. So I could have all my henchmen out. He could have all his policemen out. But since I already have out Natural Disaster... I have to do something else with my Natural Disaster. I could just hold on to it and discard it at the end, but she does have a play ability. Tsunami, 2 damage to 1 target or acquire 1 card from the pool. Since we're only going to do a short round here, I'm just going to do 2 straight up to Johnny.
Oh, Johnny. Like, that's just not cool, man. And actually, I think in 2 rounds here, we can show the actual one of the end conditions here as well. Since I didn't play a lot on my turn since we were doing short. All right, so...
I win even in demo, buddy.
All right, who won the actual game?
video where it didn't happen.
Nice. All right, so what we got? We played all our cards, or have passed if we were going to pass. So now we have the fight phase. Starting with me, I've got one lonely character over here defending the hero side, but he's in my front row, so I'm going to disable him and use his front row abilities. He has 2. So the first one is called Flaming Fist. I get to do 2 damage to one front row target. Yeah, I don't think it matters, so let's just say the Excrementalist.
The Excrementalist?
Take it. And then I do a Fireball, which does 1 damage to 1 row. So I can either pick the front row or the support row. I'll just go ahead and do the front row. It at least gets rid of 1 card, what doesn't do anything.
Now, normally when you lose a card, and we'll show some,
you'll see in a minute.
Yeah, you'll show some. We'll show some close-ups. The card has hit points, and underneath that it's got value. The value on my henchman is 0, but if a card has a greater than 0 value, that's the number of cards you have to banish from your deck upon their defeat. And that's how you empty your deck in a negative way. So he's done his first attack, and as with playing, this is integrated turns. So I will bust out Professor Dog's missile launcher. 3 damage to 1 target, but because of his gizmo, that's going to go up to 4, which is enough to kill Johnny
4
Pyro.
is what Johnny Pyro had left. So he has a value, I don't know if we get in there, value of 2. Like I said, we'll do some better close-ups here in a second. But he's got a value of 2. So again, he's defeated. He doesn't get banished. He actually goes still back into my discard pile, and I can use him later. But the top of my deck, I have to take the top 2 cards, and whatever they are, they're out of the game completely. And they're 2 of my heroes. So I just lost 2 of my heroes. So that would be completely out of the game. The other thing is when you go through your deck, let's say it's all in your discard pile and you need to draw, you take that and you do your shuffle as normal. And every time you have to shuffle your deck, you lose the top card of your deck. So here I'd be losing one of my police officers if that was the case. So you start whittling down on cards, and if you basically get through your 20 cards, that's plus whatever you bought. That's one way to lose. One of the other ways to lose is what just happened. If at the end of a fight phase, one side does not have any cards left on their little 3x2 grid here, then that's the end, and the player that still has cards wins. If somehow there's a KO on both sides, tiebreaker is, I think, the starting player in that particular instance.
And the third loss, or the third end condition, is you always refill the row 4 cards. These don't remain. So if at any point you can't refill all 4 cards, the game ends.
Yeah. And there you go. So that's a very quick 2-round look at what goes on in Hero Brigade. Anything else we should do real quick before we go to?
No, I think we're good.
All right. All right, so here's a close-up of one of the hero cards. This is Johnny Pyro, as you can see from the top here, his name. Next to the name is the hit points we were talking about. So Johnny has 6 hit points. His value is 2. Again, that's when he was defeated. We got rid of 2 cards out of the hero deck that removed themselves completely from the game. You can see here, let's zoom in just a little bit there. Mutant hero, that's the type of hero he is. Now we're going to look, just slide up just a little bit, if you will here. Just a little bit there. Now what you're looking at is the front ability. So that's if he's in your front row. So he had the 2 abilities that we talked about, the Flaming Fist, which does 2 damage to 1 front row target. And then there's the Fireball, which does 1 damage to 1 row, and you select the row in that case. Then if he's in your support area, he just gets the Fireball. And then if you play him, you basically, you play him, you discard him, he doesn't go in a row, but he has 2 damage to 1 target. So you have your choice of those 3 abilities, depending on where you put them or how you play them, what you're going to use for each turn. And we'll come back out here. So that's Johnny. So again, and this is not necessarily the final artwork, definitely not the final template. If we go to the Kickstarter, you'll see they have an updated template, which I really like the new version. But basically, that's the gist of a hero card. You've basically got 3 options to play with, and then you're going to have some things like, there's that reinforcement card I played. Let's get him in here. And basically, you'll see that this is just a play ability. So there you go. Zoom in a little bit. There you go. So this is just a play ability, which just lets me, again, acquire 1 card from either the pool or put a hero in my party on top of my deck. So if I wanted to make a spot, the only way, once you've played a hero or a villain out into the front or support row, the only way they go away is usually during battle, unless you have a card like this that lets you take it away with an ability. And then let's see, what else we got? So, again, not final. This is one of the resource cards. And this is similar to one that Jordan played in our short little game. Let's come in here. And it is, let's see, the title is Sparring Partners. It's an enhancement, if we come in here. So a fighter enhancement. So it can only be put on a fighter, hero, or villain. And what does that say? Enhance. So if it's put on the fighter, hero, or villain, it enhances it. So 1 fighter target in the party deals +1 damage with all attacks, or it has a straight up play ability where you play it and then discard it for 5 damage to 1 fighter target. So basically, if you have it as the villain, you can play it against 1 fighter hero on the other side and do 5 damage to it straight up. Anything else you want to show?
I just want to point out.
Let me come out some here, probably.
And this is just a personal like, as opposed to something critical to the game.
I have to come in a little bit more here.
Currently, as it stands, and yeah, the caveat: this is pre-prod. Some of the cards have different card art. We have two copies of the Chinese calculus here, and Jeff had 2 copies of Johnny Pyro, for instance. Different card art. I think this adds a little bit of flavor to the game, because you've got something a little dark and gritty and something a little more Silver Age-ish, more realistic, and I like that. And they haven't declared whether they're going to go down to 1 piece of art for each card or if they're going to keep multiples. I think it would be nice if they kept multiples. This is something that adds to the game for me. Some games it doesn't work well. Legendary. But for this, since it's the same powers, having different card art, I think, is not a takeaway. So that's that. And that's all I've got. Let's give him a little bit of fluff. I've got Professor Dog, and you have Dr. Cat. Yep. This is, as described, the mentor for the heroes and the mentor for the villains. So there's only 1 of each in each starter deck, because they're the leader. So it's Dr. Dog leading the villains to victory, and Dr. Cat leading the heroes to defeat.
Professor Dog, give him his props.
Yes, Professor Dog.
Give him his props.
Well, he's only a dog.
Okay, so there's a look at some of the cards, and now maybe we'll just go ahead and give you our wrap-up, what we think of the game overall.
Yep. So initial thoughts?
Hero Brigade, I like it. I like the mechanical twist on some of the deck building stuff. I like that almost every card has 3 options, so you got to kind of think about how you want to play it. And I like the 3 different end conditions, because you got to kind of keep each one in mind. Well, at least 2 of them in mind a lot. The resource deck, maybe not as much until you start whittling it down, but you definitely got to think about having your cards out in front of you, because if you get wiped off the board in a fight, then you're done. But you also got to remember that you need to acquire cards, because if your opponent takes out too many cards from your deck, you're done. So I dig that. What do you think?
Agreed. No, I agree with everything that you just said. I think it's got the balance is the most important mechanic here between the 3 areas, and a lot of the card art and a lot of the names really appeal to me, going back to my love of the original Tick comic. I think if he was not inspired by that, he should go read it. I can easily see like Chairface Chippendale coming in here or something and being a character. That'd be well worthwhile. The artwork for the completed cards is good. So if they stick with this quality of art, I think it would be more than acceptable. The mechanics are good. Life counting, but if that's the only thing that happens going into production is the lack of life counters or the requirement for D10s, that's not a big detractor. One thing, we've got these wonderful poker chips, 3 greens, a red, and a blue. Don't quite know what they're for. They're listed in the componentry list.
If you know what they're for, let us know.
They're listed.
Nick?
They're listed in the component list. They appear to have no use based on any of the cards that we've seen. But
you ever do a punch out and punch something out that you wonder if it's for the game or not?
Yes.
So you punch it out to keep it, but you're not sure if you can get rid of it. That's kind of what those are. Is
this the Zucchini People equivalent of the Fantasy Flight Proof of Purchase tab?
But again, if the worst thing that happens is I have more components than I know what to do with, but if you list it in the component list, tell me why. Even if you say this will be used in a future expansion. Because I went through the rules and back through the rules, and I kept thinking, okay, I'll find a card that uses them. Haven't found that yet, unless I just keep missing it. So, but again, there are worse things to happen. This is on Kickstarter right now. I believe it goes till May 23rd. Nick Yu from Zucchini People Games. It's called Hero Brigade. He was looking for $5,000. He is over $10,000 right now. Has already hit 2 of his stretch goals. Is approaching the next one. So it is going to get made. It's definitely worth checking out, and I do think it's a nice twist on the... It's got some CCG-like elements, but don't get me wrong, this is not a CCG. There's no random boosters to it, nothing like that. But if you're like me, I used to play Magic. We still play some LCGs and stuff because there's something to that type of game. The back and forth and the battling and the strategic part of it. The elements are there. This will scratch an itch very easily, and I like that. So definitely worth checking out. Check it out on Kickstarter. The link is on our site, allusgeeks.com. It'll be in the description of this video, or if you watch this off of the allusgeeks.com website, it'll be in the notes there as well. So check it out. Think about backing it. I think $25 gets you the game, $35 gets you the promos, and any stretch goals that they unlock. So I think it's worth it.
Check it out.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good one.